Since last year in 2019, one of the most ongoing topics had been climate change, sustainability, environmentalism, and the UAE has been slowly becoming at the forefront of this entire topic. And right here with me, I've got Simarna Singh, who is a sustainability and youth advocate speaker. She is a UN Youth Ambassador and Masdar Sustainability Leader. Hi, Simarna.
Hi, Aisha. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Very, very well. Thank you so much for inviting me onto your show. And I'm super excited to be here and discussing some amazing topics that you have set up.
They are super important topics as well because, like I said, it's an ongoing topic. But what exactly is sustainable living?
Sure. Sustainability for me really is balancing the needs of the people, planet, and profit, and of course achieving sustainable development holistically, including all of the sustainable development goals.
Can you tell us more about the sustainable development goals?
Sure, absolutely. There are 17 sustainable development goals. They were set by the United Nations in 2015. They spent a couple of years after the Millennium Development Goals were launched. And then, of course, they focused on redeveloping them, focusing on people, planet, profit, prosperity, and peace and partnerships.
It's very, I'd say, inclusive, as in there are so many parts to these goals. Because when you think of sustainability, you might think, oh, maybe something greener, like switching from normal cars to electric cars. But this is a lot more inclusive and super interesting, which begs the question, because the UN have created these goals for it to be, again, inclusive across the entire world. So does that mean, is it easy to live sustainable in the UAE, especially taking those goals into consideration?
Absolutely. I think the great part about living in the UAE is the fact that we have such a dedicated leadership team who, are really passionate about achieving the sustainable development goals. They've embedded it within their vision. And I think that they're really, really accelerating towards this, especially committing to the future generation who now have got this embedded within their syllabuses. So I'm super excited to see, what is there in the next couple of years and excited to see how we can progress it together.
Absolutely. And especially you yourself as a person, one of those young people, what made you think that I am going to pursue this? I want to make this my life goal to be a youth advocate and a youth leader talking about sustainability.
Sorry, Aisha, would you mind repeating the question, please?
Well, I was wondering, as a youth yourself, what made you decide that you're going to be one of the leaders and pioneers and advocates of this mission?
Sure. I think, when I first started off studying in school as well, I thought that it's very, very important to find a goal and mission that aligns to your purpose. So I started off in school, was not sure what I really wanted to do in my life, but I knew that I wanted to make a difference. And I think that was really important to me. So when I obviously started off studying, I got involved in initiatives like recycling. I got involved in, of course, community service. And I realized that this was something that I really wanted to do. And then, of course, when I started my career in the UAE, in 2015 and 2017, I really started getting aligned to the sustainable goals. I had my own networking platform as well. And after that, I was so passionate about it, and suddenly it just started evolving.
Can you tell us more about that, the exact steps, what happened? And I mean, mashallah, you are a UN Youth Ambassador and you are very big about the UN Sustainability Development Goals. So tell me about that. How did you get to that? And how did you eventually become a Masdar Sustainability Leader?
Sure. So during the time that I was studying, I actually had the opportunity from my university. There was an application form for the Masdar's Future Sustainability Leaders program. And all of a sudden, I thought, okay, you know what? It's a really good initiative. Let me try to apply for it. And I got selected, which was probably one of the most memorable, opportunities that I had. I had the opportunity to meet some of the ministries, interact at the UN conferences, be part of Abu Dhabi Sustainability Week. And I think, the journey really evolved from there. I think that my public speaking skills really developed, my knowledge, things that you don't learn in university. It was so practical. And I really, really am grateful for the opportunity, to be honest. I was one of the rare youth that was not Emirati. And really, really, it was one of the most greatest privileges to be amongst all the leaders as well.
And it's great also speaking to you as a pioneer within this field. And we're not done talking to you. We're going to be taking a short break and continuing this conversation with Simarna Singh. So stay tuned for that and much more right here on the Afternoon Karak.
This is Pulse 95.
We are joined here at the Afternoon Karak with Simarna Singh, who is a sustainability and youth advocate speaker, a UN youth ambassador, and a Masdar sustainability leader. Right before the break, she was talking about her beginnings, how she started off, and also more about the sustainable development goals set out by the UN. And this begs the question, does the UAE have the foundation to have a sustainable future?
Absolutely, Aisha. I think, as I mentioned in the previous session, that, the UAE already has a leadership and a foundation where they've embedded the Sustainable Development Goals into the vision. If you look at some of the initiatives, for example, affordable and clean energy, or, of course, since we have a food security minister over here, having, of course, proper agricultural practices, focusing on technology and innovation, they've embedded all of the different goals in a very systematic way, but chosen what is of priority to them. Similarly, of course, if you look at some of the initiatives done by the youth minister over here, they have a youth circle where they involve the different, youth on board, and of course have discussions on important topics. Like I had the opportunity to attend one by His Excellency Dr. Thani, where he spoke, about plastic waste, and they had a PepsiCo representative as well. So they're really doing important initiatives to bring youth on board so that we can discuss these topics and so that we can really take practical steps. I think they also ask the youth about our opinions and what we think we would take to make sure that we accelerate the 2030 agenda, which I think is so important because we're being involved in these conversations.
Absolutely, because we are the generation that's going to be living through it, and also the generation that will be leading the next movement, or at least setting the path for the next generation to take over, and so on. So does that mean in the UAE we can comfortably live sustainably? And how can we exactly do that? What are the steps that I, myself, Aisha and Mazmi, and all our listeners can take to live sustainably in the UAE?
Absolutely. I think there's a lot of progressive steps that we can take, and every little bit counts. If you look at, the charity initiatives that you can do, of course, you can, of course, donate your items to Red Cross, for example, or Red Crescent, for example. Alternatively, you can obviously buy local and fresh produce made in the UAE. There's now a Care For section, so you can actually purchase your organic ingredients. Alternatively, even creating awareness on your social media about posts that matter, I think is very, very important. Giving jobs to people who are in need, I think is another progressive step. I think, there's a social enterprise in the UAE called Enable, where they, work very closely with, Emiratis, of course, who are people of disability, and giving them opportunities and proceeds go to them, which is fantastic. I think, it's all about empowering one another. Similarly, of course, getting your items to the recycling bin in an efficient manner and taking that extra step. There's so much that can be done. It just depends how much you want to do it, how much awareness you want to raise, and if you can collectively achieve it together.
That is super important, your last point, and that is collectively achieving it together. Because yes, it is. Usually people say, oh, somebody else is not doing it, I will not do it. It does not really work out. But then if we slowly, bit by bit, inspire other people to keep on doing it and to get together and do the said thing, then eventually it'll be like a massive wave, and it'll be eventually a normal part of life and a lifestyle that anybody can adapt. Because let's take, for example, people who are trying to become vegetarian or vegan or pescatarian for environmental reasons. A lot of people find it difficult at some point, maybe, perhaps even not being able to find said products. But now, because a small group of people started off a couple of years ago to advocate and look for said things, eventually a lot of corporations started appearing and giving alternatives and having alternatives. I mean, one of the first ones that come to mind as well, for example, we've got fast food restaurants such as Burger King offering a vegan option, even though it might not be fully vegan, but it's a step towards that. And finally, the big question, how are you celebrating National Day? It's the third day of our extended weekend. What are you doing, Simarna?
Thank you so much, Aisha. You know, I had the opportunity yesterday to actually celebrate National Day. I headed over to Blue Waters, went out with my friends. I saw this amazing parade that took place as well. Everyone was dressed in their nice, beautiful Emirati cultural outfits.
Yeah.
So it was lovely. It was very crowded as well. So, you know, I do encourage everybody to stay safe.
Yeah.
But it's a beautiful time. I think, you know, everybody should really embrace that we're living in such a beautiful country with fantastic leadership and you know, just embrace what we have right now. And I hope 2021 will be much more prosperous for everybody.
Absolutely, we wish so as well. And finally, any parting words, especially how do you inspire or how can you inspire anybody who's listening right now or future generations? What do you want to tell them in terms of partaking in sustainable living and the sustainable development goals?
Sure. You know, I often get this question, and to be honest, I don't think there is a right or wrong answer per se on how to achieve sustainability or what you should do. I think you just need to know that you want to make a difference for your generation and for the generation after.
Yeah.
I think what's very important is that as youth, we are often not given the opportunity to share what we think because we're considered that we're not, you know, as experienced as the other generations. But do not ever feel that, you know, you don't have a voice.
Yeah.
Please try your best to, you know, encourage one another, bring your relevant experience to the table, and, you know, just make sure that you're passionate about everything you do because it'll really come across. And network as much as you can. That's the best advice that I can give to everybody.
Your words are super important and have been actually repeated by several of our guests over the past 2 days who kept on saying, no matter what you want to do, just go for it and keep doing it because eventually it's not going to start off really easily. You might get lucky here and there, but it will take a lot of time for you to eventually reach your goal and to create waves in whatever industry you are in. Thank you so much for joining us, Simarna. It was a pleasure having you right here, especially as a pioneer in this field right here in the UAE.
Thank you so much, Aisha, for the opportunity, and I'm really looking forward to more collaborations together in the future.
Inshallah. It's not going to be the last time we hear from Simarna, hopefully right here on the Afternoon Karak. We're going to be taking a break. We have got the sports headlines coming up, and then we're going to continue our conversation with Amal Murad, a parkour expert and a coach. Stay tuned for that and much more right here on the Afternoon Karak.
If you liked this episode of Afternoon Karak, drop a like and subscribe.
Pulse 95.
Be sure to follow us on Instagram for all our daily updates and top stories.